See how this first, right? And then I hit the gavel. Oh, it's
to you actually. Which one you want to do it? There's no protocol. There's not.
Isn't it better here?
That's fine. That's good.
Kick up.
Mm-hmm.
Do that.
Mm-hmm. I'd say it's plateaued. I think you can go ahead.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the meeting of the Board of Directors of the State of Hawaii Department of Agriculture. I am the chair, Sharon Hurd. Prior to calling the meeting to order, Stephen Dalton will explain how the public can participate in this hybrid meeting, which can be accessed by video conference, telephone, or in person.
Good morning, everyone. As an attendee, your microphone will be automatically muted during the meeting unless you are providing testimony. For each agenda item you wish to testify on, please click the raise hand button found on your Zoom screen. Board staff will individually enable each testifier to unmute their microphone. When recognized by the chair, please unmute your microphone before speaking and mute your microphone after you finish speaking in order to prevent audio feedback. When testifying, you'll be asked to identify yourself and the organization, if any, that you represent. Each testifier will be limited to 2 minutes of testimony per agenda item. For those of you who are dialing in by phone, when the chairperson asks for public testimony, you may indicate you want to testify by entering star and then 9 on your phone's keypad. After entering star and then 9, a voice prompt will let you know that the host of the meeting has been notified. When recognized by the chairperson, you may unmute yourself by pressing star and then 6 on your phone. A voice prompt will let you know that you are unmuted. Once you are finished speaking, please enter star and 6 again to mute yourself. In the event that connectivity is lost and attempts to repair the connection exceed 30 minutes, the meeting may be terminated or continue to another date and time. Consult the webpage for updated information. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Testifiers are reminded that there is a 2-minute limit of testimony per agenda item. Calling the meeting to order, 9:10 in the morning. Meeting was called to order at 9:10, roll call vote. I will take a roll call of the board members present. When your name is called, please indicate your presence with a here or present and state who, if anyone, is in the room with you over the age of 18. This also serves as the roll call vote. For each subsequent vote, I will ask if there are any objections. If there are none, then the motion will be approved on the same basis as this initial roll call. Okay, Sharon Hurd, present. Russell Suji.
Present and alone.
Thank you. Dr. Anya Vichorek is excused. Mary Alice Evans.
Present.
Diane Lay.
Present and alone.
Thank you. Vincent Mina. Let's see. Nope. Vincent Mina is excused. Fred Cowell.
Present.
Thank you. Randy Cabral.
Present and alone.
Thank you, Randy. And Young.
Present and alone.
Thank you. And James Gomes.
Aloha Kahiaka, present and alone.
Thank you. Moving to the approval of the minutes for the October 24th, 2023 meeting. May I have a motion to approve the October 24th minutes?
So moved, Jimmy.
Thank you, Jimmy. Second?
Seconded.
Thank you, Mary Alice. Okay, any presentation by the staff on this? Any comments?
Public comment.
Public comments? Seeing none? Is there board discussion on the minutes?
Chair, this is Randy. I'm going to abstain since I was absent.
Okay. Same for
Chair.
Fred's. Randy and Fred have abstained.
Yeah, I was going to abstain as well. Do you need our votes though? Because that would be 3.
Do another meeting. There won't be enough votes to approve.
Okay, we will have to approve the minutes, consider approving the minutes at another meeting, as there is not enough quorum to do so for this meeting. Okay? Is that okay? All righty. So we move on to item 4, communications from the divisions and administration. First from the Agricultural Loan Division. Item 1, request for approval of one emergency loan for Diamond B Ranch LLC and Brendan Baltazar co-borrowers. May I have a motion to approve the request? Okay, thank you, Mary Alice, and a second.
Second, Jimmy.
Thank you, Jimmy. Presentation by staff.
Good morning, Chairperson and members of the board. I am Wayne Takamini, Business Loan Officer for the Agricultural Loan Division, and I will be presenting the request for the Diamond B Ranch LLC and Mr. Brendan Baltazar. The Diamond B Ranch LLC was established in December 29, 2014 by Mr. Brendan Baltazar, owner. Mr. Baltazar is a lifetime resident of Hawaii, a well-respected Paniolo from Makawao, who herds hundreds of cattle, including dozens of bulls, sheep, goats, cattle, dogs, and horses. He reports grazing a herd over 5,000 acres up to 7,000. This request is for a $350,000 emergency access deer loan request offered by the State of Hawaii Agricultural Loan Division. The loan purpose is to prepare and install perimeter fencing to control access deer encroachment and prevent further damage to pastures and grazing areas. A portion of the funds will be used to provide operating funds to clear the land, install water infrastructure. The ranch intends to use its own equipment, including excavators, to clear the invasive trees and brush from the new leaseholds noted below. Recently, the Diamond B Ranch acquired 2 leasehold parcels totaling 167 acres from the Hawaii Department of Agriculture, in part of the Act 90 land transfer from the Department of Land and Natural Resources. Mr. Baltazar received HDOA board approval for a 35-year lease by the Agricultural Resource Management Division for the following. So he has a leasehold mortgage of 35 years. Okay, I'm sorry. So the terms of the loan are as follows. Amount is $350,000 Class D. Term is for 20 years. Interest rate 3% fixed. Repayment is annual principal and interest payments of $23,526 until maturity. Mr. Baltazar has had 2 previous loans with the State Agricultural Loan Division that were paid in full, and all terms were done as required. Emergency loan DD 6078 was approved on July 26, 2001 for $250,000, and due to the severe impacts of drought affecting the island of Maui. And in January 30th, 2012, DC 6316 was approved for fencing, labor, lines, water lines, troughs, water tanks, and operational capital. Again, this one was paid in full with all terms as agreed. For this current loan, the Class D loan is secured by the following. A first leasehold mortgage on state leasehold number S-351 for 35 years, consisting of 149 acres of land in Keokea, Hula, Makawao, Island, Maui, State of Hawaii. Also, a first leasehold mortgage on state leasehold number S-3152 for 35 years, consisting of 20.980 acres of land, again in Keokea, Hula, Makawao on Maui. And also a first position UCC blanket security interest in the Diamond B Ranch LLC accounts receivable livestock and farm equipment. The equipment is valued at 1,030,000, and the livestock is valued at approximately 417,000. The Agro Division staff is recommending that this will be passed.
Thank you, Wayne.
If folks have any questions.
Well, does anyone from the public wish to offer testimony?
There are no hands raised at this time.
Okay, any discussion by the board? Oh, could we call on Russell?
Thank you, Chair. This question is for staff. This loan is characterized as an emergency loan for access deer, but one thing I did not see in the submittal was a current problem or the extent of any current problem with the access deer. Could you articulate the current problem?
Well, this is a newly acquired parcel, and I believe it was with the DLNR and transferred over to the Agricultural Resource Management. So these two parcels were just completed a few months back. In the meantime, before the land was acquired by the Diamond B Ranch, there was a lot of invasive species. Plants and forestry has taken over. I believe Mr. Balthazar originally had used the land for ranching previously on a different lease with DLNR. And then DLNR took the land back, and I think it was something like 18 years. He said that the land has become overgrown with invasive species. The fences that were there previously were destroyed, or basically has to be rebuilt, those fences. So right now, for grazing his cattle, the land has to be improved. And this is where a lot of the deer infestation comes in. They're eating all of the grasses, etc. And then the fencing again needs to be put in place in order so that they can make this land usable for ranching.
Okay, so he's currently experiencing access deer going onto his land and affecting his operation?
On these parcels that we're using for leasehold mortgages, yes. The deer has affected the terrain. It's hard to, he has to make a certain amount of cattle, raise a certain amount of cattle so that they can have calves, and then he will grow the calves, and he has clients on the mainland that will purchase the cattle from the calves from them. Okay. And that's pretty much, if the land is not prepared to a certain level, then it limits the amount of cattle to put on the land, and also will not be successful in getting operating full.
Right, I understand a rancher has to prepare the land for a ranching operation. I am asking specifically about the purpose of the loan, which is access deer, emergency access deer. And so that's why I'm asking what was the current problem with the access deer?
Yes, well, he has several other ranches that he has problems with access deer, but he does put up fencing and has protected the fencing for the grazing lands, and he does care for the lands.
Recognizing Mary Alice, she has a comment on this.
I'm addressing Russell's question. Russell, since the governor has issued an emergency proclamation regarding access deer on the island of Maui, with significant due diligence going into that, I believe that also supports the department's recommendation for an emergency access deer loan.
Thank you. Russell, any further comment?
Well, I don't think I'll get any more than I got. Thank you.
Thank you. Calling on Jimmy Gomes.
Yeah, Russell, to answer your question, there is a ton of deer in that area. That pastures are covered with Christmas berry, black wattle, and silver oak trees and some lantana. And the question I have for staff is, did Diamond B submit a conservation plan? And since it's an emergency, will all the 2 parcels, will it be completely fenced with deer fencing? Because that's what this loan is for, operating and access deer. So I would like to know that. But to clarify more, Russell, from Keokea and the area that he has is called Kamaole. We have Halakla Ranch has got pastures in there too that they're leasing from OW, Oprah Winfrey. And then you have us, Olupalakua Ranch. There is a tremendous amount of deer. I see the deer every morning. Every morning I can count patches of maybe 50 to 100 in a herd. And I may hit maybe 2 or 3 herds.
Okay, thanks, Jimmy. Yeah, I just didn't see that in the submittal. Thank you.
Yeah. But my question is, does he have a conservation plan? Do we have one on? I would like to know the conservation plan, how he's going to attack all of the wattle and everything else that he has. But the deer is a major problem. You see a lot of hot trails crossing the highway, Mauka and Makai on both of the parcels. But prior to that, Russell, that was way back when in a day when I was a kid, it was a dairy for the hospital. And then after that, a guy named Chaliota took over the lease.
I was wondering whether it's just Chaliota's one.
That's Chaliota's, correct.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's the parcel.
Oh, he does have a plan with an NRCS that he's working on, but he had to get the lease signed before he could go forward with the NRCS plan and grant.
Okay, so when that then is done, I'd like to know if all of the perimeter will be fenced with deer.
Yes, I believe he's going to complete the deer fencing for the perimeter of the property.
Okay, so I have one last question, please. Why, and this comes up on other leases, when you have an ag park lease or an ag lease for farming, it's 45 years and pastoral is 35 years. Why is the reason? Why can't pastoral be 45 years rather than 35 years?
I'm sorry, I did not do the lease. We're only doing the loan.
I think it's statutory, Jimmy.
Okay.
For some reason.
And it's statutory, and that's the only way to change this issue legislation.
I think so, yeah. But I do know the statute. I know for pasture is 35, I think it says, yeah. I'm not sure. I can't remember whether there's extension ability. I think there is, though. But,
I thought there was, but I was just on ag. I thought maybe we could keep it all the same at 45.
All the same.
Yeah.
Maybe staff can look at that. Yeah.
I would like that.
Okay, we have made note of your question, Jerry, and we will follow up. Thank you. Calling on Diane.
Thank you, Chair. I certainly want to support this this loan. But I think that the questions we had around the nexus, with the deer and the lease, thank you for addressing those, and Mary Alice, lifting the governor's emergency proclamations, part of the importance of, addressing this proactively as well as for those who are impacted. But I noted in the purpose of the loan that a portion of the funds was also going to be used to provide operating funds to clear land and install water infrastructure. Is that an allowable use under the emergency loan program, specifically for the access deer? Or does it? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, first of all, when they're building the fence, Mr. Baltazar has the equipment and the experience to create the fences on his own. He has his own equipment, and he has done this for many years on many parcels. I believe that in order to keep the land going, to have it successful, that he does need some help from us as far as operational needs to put in the infrastructure and to clear the land. Now, clearing the land is important also because a lot of it hasn't been grazed on for, I think, he mentioned 18 years. So to help him to get the ranch going, yeah, I think it's important. And a lot of this too is because of the deer, living and basically living on that land for so many years that he has to set the ranch up so he can be able to sustain his business.
Well, I guess my question is, and it goes back to the purpose of the emergency loan, the emergency access deer loan, as it was, framed by the legislature. Does it allow for that type of additional use? Because I mean, I can see clearing, the fence line, but not necessarily clearing additional land. I can, and I don't understand why water infrastructure. I mean, and I understand that he may need to improve this property because he's just acquired these leases and it's, the property needs improvement in order for it to be economically viable. But wouldn't that come under a standard operating loan application instead? Wouldn't you break those two out? I guess I just want to make sure that board's action is in compliance with, what the legislative intent was.
Well, I think that this is for the agricultural loan division, a lot of it is on a case-to-case basis. It really, we have to look at everything because not everything's going to fit in that round peg. In this case, the experience that Mr. Balthazar brings to the agricultural loan division is uncomparable on Maui. There's no one who is more experienced, I don't think. As far as his record with the agricultural loan division, it's very solid. So we were trying to balance this out because definitely his experience comes into play, and then also that his knowledge of how economically the business and industry works as far as for range cattle. In this situation, I've done loans, fence loans, where the a fence for maybe like a 10-acre parcel is $150,000. The farm paid to fence just 10 acres. This is almost 170 acres. So yeah, I think that in this situation, what Mr. Balthazar brings to the table exceeds the 250,000 that another person would come in. And so it's one of those things where we have a respected rancher. He's coming in and offering to develop this land for grazing. And as far as I know, probably he's one of the only people who could pull it off. He needs the money to clear and to put up the fence and to clear the land to make it ready for grazing. If it was just a regular person and they had to hire someone to do a fence, it probably might cost more than $250,000. So we're looking at a couple of things. It's a new parcel for ranching that has to be made for ranching, and then again, it has to be fenced. So this is why we're trying to balance everything off, and I believe that it is important that to control the deer that the land cleared.
Thank you.
Diane, this is Jimmy.
Yes, Jimmy.
That monies that he has there, they're right in saying there's some old existing fences right now, and it is really in bad shape. And the whole boundary on he's just to go in with an excavator and pull it all out to put the fences up is a chore because it's not flat land, it's on slope land. He's got maybe 50 to 60% grade. It's a rough area. I do believe that he will spend in excess of that. just buying material and fencing. So, but I hope, I read what you read as far as operating, or why would that, I totally agree with you, but I think he'll have all of that and more in fencing just to fence that parcel up.
Yeah, I don't question the, I don't question the applicant and his capacity. I mean, we've seen his loans come forward before, his
Right.
applications, and and all of the comments have been positive. Everything looks good. I just want to make sure that, if the loan division has some flexibility in this, in how it allocates the funds, that's fine. I just,
Yeah, I
it's
totally agree
important that
with
we, cross all the I's and the T's. And,
Correct.
dot the I's and cross the T's.
Totally
So.
agree.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Calling on N Young.
Sorry, I'm confused coming out of that last one. Thanks, Diane. So operating is a permissible use of the loan.
The operating funds.
Yeah.
Well, in this situation, Mr. Balthazar is able to put up these fences, these perimeter fences, and this is in an area which is over, about 170 acres of land. So a perimeter fence for that, this is quite large, and in that, in $350,000, if you were to hire a contractor to do that, it's probably will probably cost way more than that. So, but because of his experience, he can probably do it at affordable level. But that's using his equipment, his time also. So with the money will probably go to the fencing, but will also be available for him to use to clear the rest of the land, and also to put in some infrastructure so he can graze the cattle.
Okay, I'm still not totally clear. I get it's a low risk loan. I get, he's kind of doing us a favor. I would probably be careful with that language, because I almost feel like we're saying that he's doing the Department of Service, which would be almost like a procurement thing. If the money is to put up the fence, and that's fine, we don't ask if it's operating or material or whatever it is, then I'm okay with that. But I just, like Diane said, want to make sure we're using the money for permissible uses, right? So if as a department we're comfortable with that, then okay, I'll support that.
Mary Alice?
I agree with the staff that if this were bid out by the rancher, based on the prices we've seen for other access deer emergency fencing loans, the bids would come in way over $350,000 for that size of parcel. So I think we can feel comfortable that the money will be will accomplish the goal of the emergency loan, which is to get access to your fencing. But in addition to that, and this speaks to the environmental services that the rancher brings, getting cattle onto that land and getting the fire fuel load down so that and with the drought that the National Weather Service has projected for this winter due to El Nino, it's actually a protection for upcountry Maui. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any further discussion by the board?
No, I have Mary Alice.
Okay.
Mary Alice.
Yes.
That pasture there, yeah, as far as fuel load is concerned, yeah, you might have the Christmas berry, the wattle, but as far as grass, there's nothing there because the deer consumes it all.
Jimmy, you're saying that the deer are doing the state of environmental service as well?
Exactly. I can show you night and day, where you got managed grazing and the deer. You got nothing.
Thank you, Jimmy. I'm corrected.
Any
Chair,
further discussion?
Chair, if I may ask staff, when if this loan goes forward, I would ask that you justify maybe a little bit more in the loan documents how you're articulating that the proceeds will be directed or is used for the emergency loan purposes, for the access deal purposes, in the event of an audit. So there will be, it's 5 years down the road, the answer will be there.
Good point.
I
Okay.
can request
Very,
that.
very good, Russell.
Yeah, I can request from Mr. Baltazar maybe his projections for the putting in the fund of the use of the disbursement of the funds.
Thank you, Russell. Thank you, Wayne. Further discussion? Seeing none, calling for the vote. Are there any objections? Hearing none, the motion is approved. Thank you, Wayne.
Thank you. Thank you, board.
Yeah, item 2, request for approval of one Class A loan for Daniel Sheen and Kona Controls as co-borrowers. May I have a motion to approve the request?
So moved.
And that's Jimmy, and second by Fred Cowell. Thank you. Presentation by staff.
The attendee.
We're looping in the presentation. Oh, Jillian Scheibe.
Good morning,
Morning.
Chairperson and members of the board. I'm Jillian Scheibe from the Kona Agricultural Loan Office, and I'll be presenting the loan request for Daniel Kaipo Sheen with Kona Controls that does business as Makapueo Farms. Mr. Sheen is requesting a Class A direct farm ownership for a qualified farmer in the amount of $450,000. The coffee and macadamia farm is approximately 8.93 acres. It is a Kamehameha School Bishop Estate leasehold off of Manako Road in Honano. The proposed term is 30 years with a fixed interest rate of 7.25%, monthly principal and interest payments of $3,070 until maturity. The loan is secured by a first position leasehold mortgage on the parcel, which has an appraised value of $620,000 by Colleen McDonald's Appraisals Incorporated. The farm is 8 acres with a home. The property has approximately 2 acres of mature coffee orchards, 5 acres of macadamia nut trees. Mr. Sheen has installed irrigation throughout and a pig fence around the perimeter. The loan will be further secured by a first lien blanket financing statement and security agreements on all crops, counts, inventory, farm equipment, tools, and coffee equipment. The farm on average has produced a value of about $24,500 annually. Mr. Sheen is a third-generation coffee farmer. He has taken over the family operation off of Middle KA Road in 2005 following the arrival of Coffee Berry Board. He began partnering with local farms with a focus on quality. In these partnership agreements, he's established a maintenance of routine, which included more uniform practices of fertilization, harvesting, and processing. The Manako property was one of the first partnered farms back in 2008. Since then, he's expanded his markets globally. He's also received distinctions for his efforts, such as the USDA's Farmer of the Year with Soil, Water, Energy Efficient Management in 2014. The proposed loan will allow him to continue operations on this farm, both securing coffee cherry and worker housing. Staff recommends approval of the loan request.
Did you do a recommendation? Jill, can you restate your recommendation? I'm sorry, I missed it.
Staff recommends approval of the loan request.
Okay, thanks. Anyone from the public wish to give testimony?
I see no hands raised at this time.
Okay, board discussion. Thank you, Randy. Go ahead.
I have a question. This is leasehold property, and you said the property was appraised at $620,000. That appraisal is based on the land value or the leasehold value?
That is going to be on the leasehold value. It was like all the comps were done with other leaseholds with the lease terms and everything also and approved.
Okay, thank you.
Any further board discussion? Oh, I see Ann.
Chair and AG, question for you. I'm working for Kamehameha Schools now. I'm not in the leasing division, but won't make a decision on this particular on whether or not we renew the lease. But just wanted to make sure there's no conflict there.
This is Brian, Deputy AG. Because I don't believe Kamehameha Schools has an interest in this matter, I think it is all right for you to participate.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you for that, Ann. Any further board? Oh, go ahead, Fred.
Is Mr. Sheen available?
He's not in my office. If he's not on the line, I can't tell you much more about that.
No big deal. I do know Mr. Sheen, and he's been doing a lot of work in the coffee industry for many years.
Okay, thank you, Fred. And seeing no hands, seeing no one in the room, we're going to move to the vote. So calling for the vote. Are there any objections to the approval of this measure? Hearing none, the motion is approved. Thank you, Jillian.
Thank you.
Moving to item B, Animal Industry Division, request for approval of proposed memorandum of agreement between the Department of Agriculture and the Department of Land and Natural Resources regarding the transfer of revenues, less management expenses to the Aquaculture Development Special Fund managed by the Department of Agriculture. May I have a motion to approve the request?
So moved.
Thank you, Mary Alice. Second.
Second, Jimmy.
Thank you, Jimmy. Presentation by staff.
Yes, good morning. My name is Todd Lowe, and I manage the Aquaculture Development Program for the Department of Agriculture. We are requesting, as Chair said, the approval of a proposed MOA between the DOA and the DLNR regarding the transfer of revenues less management expenses to the Aquaculture Development Special Fund. The Department of Land and Natural Resources administers open ocean leases for aquaculture, and their statute 190G-33 states that the revenues obtained from the leasing of state marine waters pursuant to this chapter shall be deposited into their special land and development fund and to be used for the planning, research, and development of the aquaculture industry. That coincides with our special fund, which is specifically for that purpose. As stated in our statute, what our special fund is for this support, to support research and development programs and activities to relate to expanding aquaculture. So what this does is it's a little bit of plumbing between the two departments. The motion has gone up all the way through the DLNR already, and it sits with us for consideration. What we'll be doing is off of $1 of revenue, 20 cents goes to OHA, 25 cents would go to the department, stay at the DLNR for admin fees, and 55 cents comes to us. We had initiated a transfer in 2015, and we've been working on this for a little while. But what this does, it will create an orderly pipe between the departments. So we can sort of rely on the transfer of funds and create some processes on both sides of the point. So the staff, I didn't check the verbiage, request approval of the motion.
Yes. Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you, Todd. Yes. Does anyone from the public wish to provide testimony?
There are no hands raised at this time.
Okay, so from the board, if Diane Lay would proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Todd, can you explain why this agreement would end in approximately 1 year? What happens then? Do we have to renew it, or are you seeking legislative adjustments?
That's a great question. I think this just came up through, I won't want to say it through our attorneys this way. I believe we wanted to set the precedence for it in the first year, and we will work on extending it in subsequent years.
So, Dan, just to let you know, there is in paragraph 5 an automatic renewal provision.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I didn't see that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Diane. Calling on Jimmy.
Jimmy, you're muted.
Oh, you're muted, Jimmy.
This is for staff. Your ADP, how many more leases are you in research for in like this one that you just done, Kihole Point Fish, which has been such a long time? But how many more leases are you looking at? And can you justify the monies that you're going to have for the aquaculture?
Oh, thank you. That's a great question. Right now, speaking of open ocean leases, there's one pending that's going through its permitting due diligence. That's off. It's slated for the old Randy Kate site off of Eva Beach. The vendor there is Neil Sims, who's been around for a while. He was the one that actually started the Kampachi farms. One of the challenges we have with open ocean leases is that it's extremely capital intensive to set up one of these programs. And there's numerous reasons why some people can make it through and others can't. We have a fairly rigorous permitting structure that the state employs for open ocean leases. That being said, the open ocean segment is just one part of aquaculture. Aquaculture, as you know, the board is both land and water-based and saltwater and freshwater. So we are pushing on all fronts and actually trying to move more into the restorative aquaculture side of it, where seaweed and bivalves provide ecosystem services to sequester carbon and also improve water quality, as well as provide a value-added product. So we don't want to say that the revenue comes from the open ocean leases, but it is not going to be only used in the open ocean theater or segment. I'm not sure if that answers your question.
Yeah, that does. But I also have another question. I'm just curious that either division can terminate the agreement in 30 days. So, you know, how strong is the leg that you have ADC to stand on? Because you can terminate this agreement in 30 days of either side.
I'm not sure if that's boilerplate or that we are very friendly with our other departments. We are working together to improve things. I don't know if that is legal.
Jimmy, it is dependent on the trust in DLNR's willingness to continue this. So, I mean, it is obviously possible for DLNR to cut the legs out of this program.
Russell, because it's DLNR land division, what's your take? You're going to take it back because I want more money in my pocket?
No, there's not much money to go with. You know, there's only one lease on this. Yeah,
exactly,
so,
and that's my point.
Yeah,
I mean, how many more you have?
It was a provision. I don't know. This is one that they. I think the standard provision came from DOA actually, but it's the intent is not to terminate it. It's more. It's going to be. And I agree that the 1 year thing was a little bit concerning, but then we did have the renewal provision that automatically renews. Yeah, so. Right now, we got the one lease. It's been that way for many, many, many years. I think the most we ever had is 2. At one time, we had Randy Cates going, but he went
Yeah.
He stopped. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was asking that question too. How much more are we going to really have other than that one? Yeah. Because what happens right now is every once in a while, the DOA remembers to ask for their funds and they try to justify the transfer. With this in place, we're going to set it up so that it automatically just goes, yeah, upon payment, yeah. I mean, that was really the deal, yeah. See what happens. I mean, we can, again, who knows what happens in going into the future too from the legislative side. I mean, program exists today and it exists for a number of years, but you know, you never know. It might have more programs, more taking of funds, etc., or there may be a need that we might need to retrieve some of that fund. Yeah.
Thank you.
Right now, we think the percentages are fair, yeah, but then I don't anticipate it being outrageously where we cannot afford to keep transferring. Yeah.
Thank you. Jimmy, do you have further questions?
No, I don't. I'm fine. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other board discussion? Hearing none. The motion is approved.
Call for the vote.
Oh, I forgot. What's that?
And Russell may abstain.
Oh.
So you haven't called for the vote yet.
Oh, I haven't?
No.
Okay, calling for the vote. Are there any objections?
Or abstentions?
Or abstentions? Okay, you were right.
I'll abstain.
Russell is abstaining. So noted. Any other objections or abstentions? Hearing none?
Actually, sorry. Because there's an abstention, we need to have a roll call vote.
Okay. I've been corrected. Here goes the roll call vote. We will start with Russell has abstained. Mary Alice Evans.
Aye.
Landley.
Aye.
Fred Cowell.
Aye.
Randy Cabral.
Aye.
Ben Young.
Yes.
And Jimmy Gomes.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion is passed. Thank you, Todd.
Thank you very much.
Next item on the agenda. Let's see, is item C, Ag Resource Management. Item 1, request for consent to assignment of general lease, Mary Chang Zhu, lessee assignor to First Rate Plantation Inc., assignee TMK, Kahuku Agricultural Park, Lot 16, Kahuku Island of Oahu. May I have a motion to, oh my God, sorry, to approve.
So moved.
So moved, Jimmy.
Thank you, Mary Alice and Jimmy. Presentation by staff.
Good morning. My name is Roy Hasegawa, Ag Resource Management Division.
Here.
General lease number 6016 was awarded to Mary Shu in 1999, where she cultivates bananas, taro, and various fruits and vegetables. Due to declining health, Ms. Shu is physically unable to farm. The lessee requests to assign the lease to First Rate Plantation Inc., owned and operated by Vanessa Portis. Ms. Portis grew up on a farm and worked on her family's vegetable farm. She founded and operated First Rate Plantation LLC in 2012, producing fresh herbs grown on a 35-acre farm in West Oahu and selling directly to stores and produce distributors nationwide and in Canada. In 2015, as the company grew, she established First Rate Plantation Inc. Ms. Portis would like to expand the operation by growing basil and other herbs and various fruits on the subject farmland. First Rate Plantation Inc. qualifies as an agricultural corporation, as its corporate member qualify as a bona fide farmer. The assignee has agreed to pay the lessee a consideration of $160,000 for the assignment of leasehold interest. The sale includes an inventory of mature trees and plants. In accordance with the lease, any net proceeds are subject to a premium percentage charge benefiting the lessor. In this case, the premium is calculated at $48,000 to the lessor. Staff recommends that the Board of Agriculture approve the assignment of general lease number 6016 and the consideration of $160,000. Thank you.
Thank you, Roy. Does anyone from the public wish to give testimony?
There are no hands raised at this time.
Okay, board discussion. Thank you, Jimmy. Jimmy
Yes.
Gomes.
Who calculates the net consideration of $160,000? What is the basis used to arrive at that amount?
It's based on the inventory and if there's any fixed structures, and that's taken off of the consideration amount. And then there's a scale for how many years is left on the lease. And that percentage is multiplied against the $160,000 in this case.
Sorry, Jimmy, can I just interrupt a little bit? The payment from the assignee to the assignor is a contractual decision made between them. So they're allowed to make that decision as to what additional consideration would be made.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
Right. The net that goes to the lessee, that goes to the lessor, in other words, Department of Agriculture, that's right, pursuant to a formula created in the lease.
Okay.
So like essentially takes whatever they've agreed to pay. So
right,
it assumes you guys have agreed, the other people have agreed what they wanted to pay, and then it subtracts all the value added by the lessee to it. And then there's a certain amount remaining, and then a percentage of that is given to the Department of Agriculture.
All right, thanks. And for staff, does this first rate plantation have any DOA leases?
No.
No?
Not at this time, no.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Colleen. Recognizing Randy.
Disregard, Chair. I wanted to know the question that Jimmy asked if they had any other first rate had any other leases in Kahuku, but that's been answered. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Further board discussion? Seeing, hearing none. Calling for the vote. Hearing no objections?
Any objections?
Oh, any objections? Hearing none. The motion is approved. Item C2, request for consent to assignment of general lease, Rae Sue and Sunny Sue, lessee assignor to first rate plantation, assignee TMK, Kahuku Agricultural Park Lot 17, Kahuku Island of Oahu. May I have a motion to approve the request?
So moved.
Thank you, Mary Alice.
Second, Jimmy.
Thank you, Jimmy. Presentation by staff.
Okay. General lease number 6016 was awarded to Prasong and Sunny Sue in 1999, where they cultivate various fruits and vegetables. Due to declining health and being their father's sole caregiver, Mr. and Mrs. Sue are physically unable to farm. The lessee requests to assign the lease also to First Rate Plantation Inc. The assignee has agreed to pay the lessee a consideration of $250,000 for the assignment of leasehold interest. And the premium for this one is calculated at $63,000 to the lessor. Staff recommends that the Board of Agriculture approve the assignment of general lease number 6017 and the consideration of $250,000. Thank you.
Thank you, Roy. Does anyone from the public wish to give testimony?
There are no hands raised at this time.
Board discussion? Are there any objections? Hearing none? Seeing none? Calling for the vote. So I just did, right? Okay, so without any objections, the motion is passed. Motion is approved. Item C3, request for consent to assignment of general lease. Yu Sokasium and Prasong Sue, lessee assignor to First Rate Plantation. Assignee, TMK, Kahuku Agricultural Park Lot 18, Kahuku Island of Oahu. Presentation by staff. Oh, I'm sorry, motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you, Mary Alice. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Fred. Presentation by staff. Thank you, Bert.
General lease number 6018 was awarded to Yu Sukasium in 1999. In 2011, the lease was assigned to Yu Sukasium and Prasong Sue. Mr. Sukasium and Mr. Sue cultivate mango and various fruits and vegetables on the farm. Due to physical and mental disabilities, Mr. Sukasium can no longer farm. Mr. Sue is also physically unable to farm and cares for Mr. Sukasium full-time. The lessee requests to assign the lease also to First Rate Plantation Inc. The lessee has agreed to pay the lessee, a consideration of $160,000 for the assignment of leasehold interest. And the premium calculated in this case is $18,750 to the lessor. Staff recommends approval of assignment of general lease number 6018 and the consideration of $160,000. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comment from the public? Testimony?
There are no hands raised at this time.
Okay, board discussion. No board discussion, so calling for the vote. Are there any objections? Hearing none, seeing none, the motion is approved. Thank you, Roy. Now on to the, wait a minute. Item 4, request to approve consent of assignment. Request to approve consent to assignment of general lease Thomas Aki, lessee assignor, to Rock Hill Farm LLC assignee, extension of the lease and amendment of the lease, Ho'olaupoko, Waimanalo, Island of Oahu. May I have a motion to? So moved. Thank you, Mary Alice.
Second, Jimmy.
Thank you, Jimmy. Any public discussion?
There are no hands raised at this time.
And board discussion. Go ahead, Randy.
Hey, Roy, this is an Act 9A transfer from DLNR.
Yeah, yes, it is.
Pardon?
Yes, it is.
Hey, so the existing lease from DLNR was just extended, or was there a conversion involved to a DOA lease?
The original lease was initiated in 1995 for 35 years.
Okay, so there wasn't a conversion then to a DOA lease.
Correct, it's still a DLNR lease.
And why was that not converted?
The with the transfer, the terms and conditions remain, and as it's coming up on the termination date of 2030, we were waiting to hear what the lessee wants to do, whether to convert or extend. The maximum term of the lease is 65 years. So it's up to the lessee.
Okay, because my understanding was that if it could transfer it over from DLNR, that it could be converted right away if the leasee wanted it done. Is that wrong?
No, the extension can occur. I don't know.
No, it doesn't have to be converted right away.
So, but they can request it be converted right away. Is that correct?
According to the statutes, there's a window. The conversion request needs to be between 5 years and 10 years of remaining on the lease.
Okay, I'm a little confused. I thought it could be converted right away if it was requested by the leasee. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I just wanted to make a comment. It looked like DOA handled the reopening because that rent does not look familiar. It's about $2,000 a year for 30-something acres. Staff, can you confirm? Staff, can you confirm?
I'll have to. I'll have to look to see when the last reopening was done.
We'll check for the last reopening, Russell. But to go back to Randy, we will send you the statute on that. There is a window of time when you can request to extend. It's 150. Do you know the provision? 150.
Oh, 158. Well, the conversion board member was talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
Chapter 8 or 9. Yeah, 158.
Okay, we'll send it to you, Randy. Okay.
We got it. Thank you.
And calling on N.
I have a version of the same question. So this is packaged together, the assignment and also the extension. For this particular one, I'm just wondering, I understand expediency on the staff side, and I'm all for less is more On this particular one, though, I mean, we know that Mr. Aki is not going to be the lessee, and I guess from the board perspective, it kind of does remove our ability to kind of talk to the lessee who is going to be the lessor moving forward, you know, in that Mr. Aki is extending the lease, and then it's going to be, you know, assigned over to Rock Hill. So to me, I feel like, you know, especially if these things maybe shouldn't come up together. So staff, is there a particular reason why it's packaged this way?
Or, well, with only 7 years left of the lease, both the assignee and the assigner are both in agreement to extend the lease. And they're here in the boardroom if there's any questions for them.
Yeah.
I think the question is perhaps whether or not the consideration would have been paid absent the extension.
It changes the value of the,
right.
Yeah.
Did you want to ask them a question?
The new lessees are in the room, and would you have a question
Sure.
for them?
Yeah, I guess, you know, what is that 400,000 consideration based on? Is it based? I mean, I feel like, well, I don't want to say I feel like, I'd like to ask what that consideration is based on, and is it contingent upon having you know, a longer term lease for you to do business on?
Okay, so we'll call on Rock Hill Farms. Is that it? Good morning. Could you
Hi, good
identify
morning.
yourself?
I'm Alice Broughton, and I'm on the lease, hopefully. And what seems to be the problem? I couldn't hear all of
Oh,
it.
the question is, he's asking, how did you determine the $400,000 consideration?
Oh, how did we, because that's what the property is worth. I'm also a licensed realtor in the state of Hawaii. I'm a broker. And the lease value of the property is worth about $400,000, considering it's leasehold property, and it's being held by the state, you know, the statewide. So that's how we considered what the property was worth.
Is that based upon the lease for 7 years or the lease for
30
7
years.
plus 30? Okay.
Yeah, on a 30-year lease. That's how we decide the value of the property, because it's we consider it a leasehold property. Leasehold property is worth a lot less than a fee simple property. So that's how we decide the property value.
And do you have further questions?
That answered my question. I think just from the, you know, from my seat, you know, this negotiation kind of assumed that the board was going to approve the lease extension, and while I don't have a problem doing that, you know, I don't know what the rest of the board's pleasure is, but you know, I'd like to see those things separated out.
So you want to see could you clarify that? What two things?
Yeah, I'm fine today.
Okay. What might help, I think, is maybe you could give a short description of the company and what its experience is and what it intends to do with the property.
Okay, Rock Hill Farm is primarily we were farming institution in New Zealand, and we farm sheep, and that's what we intend to do here. We purchasing the property with the sheep, and to continue raising sheep on the property and having grazing animals on the property. And that's my husband over there, who's the other part of Rock Hill Farm, and he's been a sheep farmer all his life. And to retire in Hawaii was his dream, and to have a sheep farm. And we were looking for a property like that. We ran across Tom, and he found his sheep without hair, which was the best part, because he didn't have to share them anymore. And so this is what we sold our farm in New Zealand, and we wanted to purchase a property from Tom. And this was an ideal property for us because it was in Waimanalo and it's close to everything. And we fell in love with the property and we wanted to purchase it. And he wanted to raise sheep again without hair. And so, and Tom has the woollish sheep. So that was just perfect for us. And that's what we intend to do. And we set up the same purveyors that we have there now and continue to do what Tom has done on the properties, raise sheep. And that's our retirement dream. And I'd like to get out of the real estate business and not sell houses anymore.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well,
any questions from Ann? Any further questions from Ann? Clarifications?
Yeah, I do, Chair.
One moment. Ann, are you done? Your hand is still up.
Yeah, I know. I wanted to kind of listen to that. No, I appreciate it, and for the Rock Hill folks, you know, it sounds like you guys are bringing some sheep expertise in from New Zealand, which is great. You know, we need some help getting our sheep slaughtered and you know, building market. So you know, all positive, and you know, just to say it's nothing against you. It's really that, you know, from the board position, we're asked to evaluate leases, and you know, it's really more about, okay, we're extending the lease, you know, while it's still under Mr. Aki without having a chance to evaluate the new lessor in the way this packet is structured. So I just want to say it's nothing really against you folks. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann. Thank you. Thank you. Russell?
Yeah, I was just going to point out along the lines of what Ann just raised, about the concern about the extension and the impact on value, which the person just testifying did acknowledge that they're paying for the additional extension period. You know, I think, and I went back on how staff calculated the premium analysis, and the share of the state is 5%, and I believe that's based upon the year after adding another 40 years to the lease, and then try to calculate what is our share, as compared to if you were to take the calculation without the 40-year extension, what is the state share? And I'm sure because you only got 7 years left, you'd have a significantly more greater state share. The concern I think Ann was trying to raise, and I see that here, is that this setup of this structure of just granting the extension at the same time of granting a sale of or assignment of the lease is in effect putting money into the lessee's pocket as in large part, in fact, probably 100% of it is based upon the 40-year extension, and not so much the value of the lease at the existing term. Did staff, and the question to staff is that in the DOA's lease and assignment of lease premium analysis, is it correct that you add in the 40-year extension? And if so, isn't there a greater share from the landlord because there is nothing, no improvements made, no inventory added. It's the same lease, same everything buying, except you're adding 40 years. The calculation, all of a sudden, the state share becomes smaller. And it's a question for staff.
The calculation was based on the existing lease at the 35 years ending in 2030 and inventory of the sheep and improvements. And the
share was 5%. Is there?
So the 5% was based on what was it? The 20-something years of the lease. How many years of the lease has passed?
Okay, maybe if I get it reversed. So if you add the 40, it would have been what? The state share would have been significantly higher than the 5%.
The percentage would probably be higher than the 5%.
Because we're not adding inventory, we're not adding anything else. It's just the same inventory. It's just all of a sudden the difference is the 40-year additional years. being added. That was the reason for the compensation. I think if the person who's buying it had to buy a 7-year lease remaining, it'd be substantially lower than the 400,000.
Could I interject a little bit, Russell? So I think you're correct if you noted that if you do not include the 30 years, I think it's 30, not 40, but if you do not include the additional 30 years, the amount of consideration certainly would have been less. The percentage of the consideration would have been more. But I do want to point out that if, for example, we change the order of the transactions so that we first transferred the 7-year lease, the remaining 7 years, to the new lessee, regardless of whatever was done, and then extended the lease an additional 30 years, there would be no consideration for the extension. So that the additional amount that resulted in the consideration really is not a transfer from the lessee to the, is not a transfer from DOA to the lessee. It is a transfer from the existing lessee to the from the new lessee to the old lessee. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, but sometimes, that's why I was asking staff to maybe go into it, because sometimes the assignment of lease premium, I'm not sure if it's identical DLNR's one, but I believe ours account for a scenario exactly like this. And they actually have an example of a calculation of it. DOA's one may not have it, and that's what I was asking, yeah. And I agree, if it doesn't have it, then I think it'll bounce to what you just said, is basically, if it's a pure extension, you're not entitled to any kind of share of that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you. As recognizing Randy.
Yeah, Chair, I just want to say, I mean, I don't see any issue with the problem in doing the two at the same time. I mean, Mr. Aki could have come in and asked for an extension, and we would have granted the extension. I don't think we would have denied that, and then come back later and assign. And I don't think we'd have denied that. So, I mean, it makes it clear cut. It's simple. It gets everything done at one time. And I think based on the information, it seems to be fair to be able to do this. So I certainly don't see any problems with doing both at the same time.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Randy. Any other board discussion? Hearing, seeing none, calling for the vote. Are there any objections? Hearing none, seeing none.
Reservations, please. Reservations, please.
Okay, it's noted for you, Russell. Any other objections or reservations, abstentions? Okay, the motion is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. So moving on to item 5. Request to approve rental offset general lease, Dean H. Nonaka and Nicole Nonaka lessee, TMK, Hanapepe Island of Hawaii. Motion to move forward?
So moved.
Thank you, Fred. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Mary Alice. Presentation by staff.
Good morning, Chair, board members. I'm Linda Marai. I'm a property manager with the Ag Resource Management Division. This request is to approve rental offset for the Nonakas. They're on Hanapepe on the island of Hawaii. Dean and Nicole Nonaka were awarded general lease number 3145 and 3146. Both leases are for 35-year terms, commencing August 1st, 2021 through July 31st, 2056. The Nonakas submitted expense receipts for equipment and services rendered. They removed about 70 non-working vehicles from both parcels and had them professionally disposed of. In addition to removing numerous abandoned vehicles, the lessees also worked with local law enforcement and DLNR. DLNR is always there to help on Hawai, to remove homeless encampments in the area. The lessee continues to clear the land in anticipation of planting fruit trees. Pursuant to the Hawaii administrative rules and other leases, and the leases, the board may permit the lessee to offset the cost of land clearance and improvements against not more than 2 years of base annual rental. The lessee is requesting rental offsets of 2 years of base annual lease rent as follows. General lease number 3145, $7,004. General lease number 3144, $3,010. Staff recommends that the Board of Agriculture approve the lessee's request for a rental offset of up to 2 years of base annual lease rent from August 1st, 2021 through July 31st, 2023. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Does anyone from the public wish to give testimony?
There are no hands raised at this time.
Thank you. Thank you. Board discussion? Thank you, Fred.
Got a question. So it sounds like this lease just went into effect 2 years ago.
Yes.
Were the vehicles present at that time when the lease was initiated?
Yes. The lessees accepted the land in as-is condition, and there were numerous cabinets and vehicles, derelict vehicles and equipment left on the lot.
Based on the location of the property, type of terrain and proximity to Honolulu town and others, that that's a problem area and can be a problem area. I'm not disagreeing with their request, but in as-is property, in as-is condition less than 2 years ago, knowing that there were that many vehicles, seems a little bit strange, but I'm also very thankful that they don't have to clean that up.
Yes, okay. We are too, and the whole neighborhood is also.
Thank you. Recognizing Jimmy Gomes.
Yeah, I just have one question. These people are going to plant fruit trees.
Yeah.
And it's not a pastoral, but why would their lease not be 45 years instead of they have 35 years and they're planting fruit trees? I'm just curious.
Okay. Jimmy, I heard your question earlier. I guess when Ag Loans was giving their presentation about the length of the lease term. Our policy, Ag Resource Management policy, is initial new leases are 35 years with, and not an option, with a privilege to extend another 30 years depending on whether they're in compliance or not, for a total of 65 years according to statute and rule. Now, on occasion, it's the board's choice really if they want to extend or give a longer term to that initial period. And I know you mentioned the agricultural parks. Some of them do have, 45 years. And I wasn't around when those leases were done, but I'm assuming that the board agreed to let the lessees for the agricultural park, the entire agricultural park, have initial terms of 45 years. And also for Act 90, we have a couple of leases where the board had allowed longer terms than the 35 years. So it is a board decision, and I believe some of that has to do with the potential lessee asking or requesting for a longer term than 35 years. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Jimmy. Further board discussion? Calling for the vote. Are there any objections? Hearing none, seeing none, the motion is approved. Thank you, Linda. Okay, moving on to item 6. Request to approve right of entry for United States Department of Agriculture, USDA, Wildlife Services to study bovine tuberculosis risk from wildlife. Lessee currently is vacant. moving to the Lot 2 Molokai Agricultural Park on Ko'olehua Island of Molokai. Motion to move forward.
So
We have a
moved.
motion. Okay, thank you, Jimmy. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Russell. And presentation by staff.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. The USDA Animal and Plant Health Inspection Services, Wildlife Services has initiated a study to determine the risk of transmission of bovine tuberculosis among livestock and wildlife on the island of Molokai. The USDA will collect data for the study by installing cameras at predetermined locations across Molokai to index populations and behaviors of axis deer and wild pigs. One of the locations will be at or near the Molokai Agricultural Park on HDOA lot. Only authorized individuals will have access to the camera to periodically retrieve data and perform maintenance as needed. The term of the study shall commence upon board approval of this request for a right of entry for a term of 24 months, unless sooner terminated, according to the terms of the ROE. In addition, staff is requesting that the board delegate to the chairperson the authority to approve alternate sites at the Molokai Agricultural Park and other HDOA lots in Molokai for installation of a camera and to extend the term of the ROE if necessary. Recommendation is that the Board of Agriculture approve the following. One, the issuance of a ROE agreement for the USDA APHIS Wildlife Services to study bovine tuberculosis risk from wildlife. And two, the delegation of authority to the chairperson to approve alternate sites at Molokai Agricultural Park and HDOA lease lots in Molokai for the study and to extend the term of the ROE if necessary. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Does anyone from the public wish to give testimony?
There are no hands raised at this time.
Okay, board discussion? Okay, calling for the vote. Ann. I'm sorry, Ann. Go ahead.
Sorry. Just real quick, what exactly does this ROE allow? Is it just installation and camera checking?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, if it's short, I certainly don't want to make the packets any bigger, but if we did a draft, I think it cut the questions. Thanks.
Well, I'm sorry, can you say that again?
If you folks did have a draft.
Oh, the document, the ROE document.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right. I understand. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further board discussion? Calling for the vote. Are there any objections? Hearing none, seeing none, the motion is approved. Thank you, Linda.
Thank you, board.
Moving on to the plant industry division. Final item is that from the plant quarantine branch, request to approve for future placement on the list of restricted animals, a currently unlisted wasp as a biocontrol agent of Quadrasticius, I'm sorry, I'm gonna let you say it, by the Hawaii Department of Agriculture Pest Control Branch, and to authorize the chairperson to schedule public hearings and appoint one or more hearings officers in connection with the proposed amendment. And the third, provided the wasp is placed on the list of restricted animals. Part A, allow the import and field release from the HDOA PPC insect containment facility. And 4, provided the wasp is placed on the list of restricted animals. Part A, establish permit conditions for the import and field release of the wasp as a biocontrol agent. May I have a motion to hear?
So moved.
Thank you, Mary Alice. Second.
Seconded.
Thank you, Fred. And any comment from the public?
Presentation.
Oh, I'm sorry, presentation by staff.
Good morning, Chairperson and board members. So Oprostocitus nitens is currently an unlisted animal, and animals not found on the list of restricted or any of our lists are considered prohibited until placed on a list. So Section 158-5.5B, the Hawaii Revised Statutes allows articles quarantined in the biocontrol containment facilities of the Department of Agriculture or of other government agencies engaged in joint projects with the department to be released upon issuance of a permit approved by the board. The applicant, which is the Department of Agriculture's Plant Pest Control Branch, is requesting that the board place Oprostocitus on the list of restricted animals, Part A, and allow for its import and field release into the environment from HDOA's insect containment facility for the biocontrol of the Erythrina gall wasp. Oprostocitus was originally brought into quarantine from Kenya, South Africa, and Tanzania in 2005 and 2006 for biocontrol research and host range testing. The department has done an environmental assessment, and that final environmental assessment with a finding of no significant impact has been published in the environmental notice on February 8th, 2023. Oprostocitus is a tiny stingless wasp native to South Africa, Kenya, and Tanzania, and has been selected and evaluated as a new biocontrol agent targeting the invasive pest Erythrina gall wasp in Hawaii. It is a host-specific parasitoid wasp intended for statewide field release as a natural enemy of Erythrina gall wasp, which has been devastating willy-willy and related Erythrina species in Hawaii. This release will complement the success of Eurytoma erythrina, which was another parasitoid wasp that has been previously approved for release by the Board of Agriculture and field release into the state in 2008 for Erythrina gall wasp biocontrol. And this new wasp should improve the survival success of willy-willy, which is an ecologically and culturally important native Hawaiian tree species. If the permit request is approved, then the Oprostocitus colony will be removed from HDOA's insect containment facility and transferred to their insect rearing facility for mass rearing and field release. Field observations of Oprostocitus natural habitat, in Oprostocitus's natural habitat in Africa, and quarantine studies done in Hawaii strongly indicate that the proposed release of this Erythrina gall wasp biocontrol agent will not have any undesirable, negative, non-target effects on the natural environment of the Hawaiian Islands. This request was first submitted to the Advisory Subcommittee on Entomology for its review and recommendation. All four of the respondents recommended approval for this request to proceed. This request was then submitted to HDOA's Advisory Committee on Plants and Animals at its meeting held on November 17th, 2023. At this meeting, the committee unanimously recommended the board to approve this request as well. And for staff recommendation, based on the favorable recommendations and comments of the Advisory Subcommittee on Entomology and the Advisory Committee's unanimous recommendation to approve this request, the Plant Quarantine Branch also recommends approval of this request with the proposed permit conditions. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Anyone from the public wish to give testimony?
There are no hands raised at this time.
Okay, board discussion. Thank you, Jimmy.
Yeah, I have a few questions. Some years back, I want to say at least 6 years, maybe, the first agent was released, and I had Juliana, I think, came up to Maui and put some on our willy-willy trees that we had in our Auahi, Kahiki Nui area, as well as our lower areas of the ranch, and it seemed to have worked. So my question is, what is the difference between that one and how well did it do its job, and why are we bringing in a second one? If the first one sufficed, that's my question.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Maybe HDOA's Pest Control Branch, Section Chief Darcy Oishi could answer that, but I would have to say offhand that this WASP that we're asking you to approve its release is there to complement the first released biocontrol agent. It will not attack the first biocontrol agent, but it's there to help, I guess, enhance the survivability rates of Wili Wili in Hawaii.
Yeah. Thank you, Chris. Darcy's online. Darcy?
Good morning. Thank you, Chair, members of the committee. My name is Darcy Oishi. I'm the acting manager of the Plant Pest Control Branch. Thank you, Jimmy. I appreciate the question, and I appreciate all the past assistance Ulapalakua Ranch has offered this program to save Wili Wili from Erythrina gall wasp. What we found in the course of our studies after releasing our previous biocontrol agent is soft tissues of Wili Wili are still being heavily impacted by the Erythrina gall wasp. So specifically, seed pods, flowers, seedlings are still hit fairly heavily. And this Procestes nitens has a tendency to go after the kinds of tissue that our previous agent do not target. And what our concern is overall is, although our prior releases were very successful at preserving the current generation of Wili Wili, what we are worried about is the continued attack, not just by Erythrina gall wasp, but bruchid seed pod, seed borers, and other things that are attacking the next generation of Wili Wili. So if seed production continues to be impacted, then we will see a gradual decrease in the amount of Wili Wili in the field, because not only are we decreasing the amount of seeds that are being produced, those seeds are subsequently being attacked and consumed by other insect predators, which, so it is not good enough for us to preserve the current generation of Wili Wili. We want to ensure that the Wili Wili continue to thrive, and this unique species, this keystone species within dry ecosystems, remains available as a part of our natural flora and fauna and a cultural symbol for and resource.
Great, thanks, Darcy.
Thank you, Darcy. Thank you, Jimmy. Any further discussion by the board? Hearing none, seeing none, calling for the vote. Are there any objections? Okay, hearing no objection, the motion is approved. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, board.
Thank you, board.
So, item 5, old business, there is none. Item 6, new business, there is none. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Mary Ellis. Thank you, Jimmy. Board discussion, if any? Calling for the vote. Calling for the vote.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So the meeting is adjourned at, is that 10:40? 10:40, thank you. Next meeting is going to be January 23rd, 2024 at 9 a.m. unless we call a meeting sooner. Right now it's January 23rd. Thank you.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Thank you so much.